What a day. I haven't even had lunch. What a day. Hello, Facebook. How is everybody? I was just chatting to my friends here on Instagram saying I had to clean up the kitchen. I don't know whether you saw me on this morning, but I made that fatal error of doing something on live television before actually checking it first. Well, I couldn't really because I was opening something. Anyway, there's a clip. It's gone crazy. My Twitter has gone absolutely ballistic because this morning have put a couple of clips up on their Twitter, and they've got like 2 million Twitter followers. So of course I'm just getting like hundreds and hundreds of comments. The first clip was when I opened my bottle of Agua de Madre, which I really like, the water kefir, and it just fizzed everywhere because I think my kids have been shaking it. So that was the first thing. And then when I got Phil Schofield to taste the real homemade kind of Polish kefir, his face was like, ooh. And of course they turned it into what is it, a meme, a gif or something. What's the difference between a gif and a meme? I don't know. Anyway, they've turned it into one of those little funny short clips. So I shall forever be immortalised probably on social media for that. But there you go. I think kefir is brilliant, and I know a lot of people have been leaving great comments to say how much kefir has helped them. So I thought, actually, do you know what? It would be quite good just to go back to basics and have a little bit of a kefir chat, because I've had lots of questions coming in already, which I can see here on Facebook, because Amy is back with us. Hi, Amy. How are you? I know it's been such a busy morning. Poor Amy, my lovely digital editor, working from home, and this morning it all went a bit mad. You know, we've put lots of kefir recipes up on the Liz Earle Wellbeing homepage because we thought that's what people would suddenly start searching for, what they'd want to see. So all the things that I've done, there's a homemade kefir tutorial that you can watch the whole thing on YouTube if you want to. Hi to YouTube. If you guys are watching on YouTube later, there was a bit of fun that happened on this morning. Which I'm sure you can see. There are snippets all over the place on that. So anyhow, kefir is good. And I've been writing about kefir for such a long time. It was a big feature of my book, The Good Gut Guide. And I did a very early podcast actually with this lady who is the founder of Nourish Kefir. And you can find Nourish Kefir in health food shops, and you can buy Nourish grains and all of that. I like these in particular. These are sachets of kefir powder, and you can take it with you. So now that we're going out and about more, if you've got any plans to go travelling this summer, take your Nourish sachets with you. That's what I do. And I think there's a link on my website. I'm not sure if we've got a discount code, Amy. If we've got a Liz Loves with Nourish, I think we might have. Anyway, it's worth a try. It's always worth putting in Liz Loves in capitals. But for Nourish, it might be something different. Anyway, maybe you could check for me, my love. And anyway, I take this wherever I go and then I make it. Or I buy grains. And these are the grains that I showed this morning. So I have had these for a while. These are in my kitchen. This is kefir grains. And they do say, purists always say that when you're working with kefir and kefir grains, you should use wood rather than metal. I'm not sure that the exact science is there to prove it, to be honest, but just to be on the safe side, I do always use wooden spoons. So if you can see here, kind of that's what it looks like. These are the cottage cheesy type grains. And what happens is you just mix these with milk. So this was one I did earlier, funnily enough, on this morning. And I just used a glass jug and I tipped in milk. So I take I always use whole milk. I always use organic grass-fed milk. And actually when I've made it, when I turn it into kefir, I keep it in the fridge. That does actually say kefir. I know it's coming out backwards. Because in the past, I mean, my family now know me well, but in the past they've, taken a sip of something that they thought was milk and they've gone, oh, what is this? Because it wasn't what they're expecting, because it tastes, well, it's yogurty. It's like, it's fermented, it states. If you don't know better, you think it tastes like off milk. But of course, we know that it's that lovely cultured product. So it's super easy to make because basically you have your grains, you add your milk and you just give it a little bit of a stir. I've already got my grains in here from this morning. And then you cover it. Now, there were some questions coming in actually on our Instagram earlier saying that some brands say you cover it with cling film. Well, I'm not sure that's right. I think you need to cover it with something breathable because it's all about the yeasts and the beneficial bacteria in the atmosphere. So I just throw a cloth, just a clean tea towel over my kefir, and just, just to kind of keep the dirt out and the flies off, and then just leave that to sit. Depending on how warm your kitchen is in the summer, it'll ferment much more quickly, or if if you're somewhere warm or it's in the sunshine on a sunny windowsill. Otherwise, it might take 48 hours, but just leave it somewhere warm, and then you just strain it off, and you strain off the grains. I've got somewhere, I was washing it up from my earlier live. Where are we? Here we go. Yeah, you can buy these kind of things, these little accessories, and you can just store your grains in here. So you just strain them off. It's like a little plastic strainer. And of course, what happens, as seasoned kefir makers will know, is that the more kefir you make, the more grains you get. So you end up literally with like a fridge full of these flipping grains. And what you can do is you can share them, you can pass them on, you can give them to other people. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you do need to probably replace your grains. They say maybe every kind of 3 to 4 months, maybe, grains lose their potency. The more often you keep them and you keep using them and reusing them and reusing them. So, or maybe you can add to it. If you've got somebody else who's got grains, you can add to it, because then you're probably adding different beneficial yeasts and bacterias. Different environments will grow different grains. So when I travel to Italy, and I'm hoping to get there this summer, to my family, I take sachets of kefir powder with me, and I use the local milk. And one of the first things I do, if not the first thing before unpacking, is I get my kefir on the go. So I've got a litre of milk and my jug, and I just stir it up and then leave it, so that the next morning I've got some kefir, because it's always, if we go in the summer, it's always really hot over there. So by the morning it's absolutely ready. Don't much like it warm, so once you've made it, you can then just store it in the fridge and chill it, and then you can use it just like milk. You can use it on cereal, you can use it in smoothies, you can just drink it neat. I've got a glass of it here. It's good stuff. A bit of chat going on about the different types of milks. Yes, absolutely. You can make kefir. Well, you can make a probiotic drink with coconut milk, or almond milk doesn't tend to work so well, but coconut milk is usually the preferred option if you want a milky one. The studies that I've seen show that it's not as effective as animal-based milks, and that's whether you're using cow's milk or goat's milk or sheep's milk, because it's the animal proteins that protect the beneficial bacteria, meaning that they can survive more of the stomach acids and get further down into the intestines. So there's been some interesting clinical research done on that. So I would always say go for an animal milk based kefir. If you're lactose intolerant, interestingly, the beneficial bacteria feed on the lactose. That's how they grow. So they need the milk sugars. That's why coconut water and things aren't considered as effective, because they haven't got the lactose. So if you haven't got the food for the bacteria to feed on and thrive, how is it going to be as effective? So you're certainly going to get some probiotic activity. I'm not saying it's not worth having, but it's not technically kefir. Kefir is coming from an animal protein, and that's what's giving you all those different strains of beneficial bacteria that you're not going to find in a plant-based kefir type drink. So definitely worth experimenting with different milks and different types. Goat's milk kefir has become quite widely available. You can just, there are so many types. I had to select a few for this morning, and I selected a biotiful one here. This is an organic milk kefir. As you know, I'm very keen on my regenerative agriculture and organic farming, particularly grass-fed, and cows capturing carbon in the soil and all of that. So that's the whole point of regenerative farming, regenerative agriculture. And then you can get also new things. This is something that I bought recently from Biotiful. It's kefir protein. So this, you're seeing more of this kind of thing. Kefir yogurts. You can use your kefir once you've made it. You can use it to make. There was a lovely comment from somebody making kefir cheese, which is just brilliant. So this is like a kefir protein here. So a high protein type thing, which I know many of us are heading for higher protein diets and higher fat diets as well. I don't know if this says what type of bacteria is in here. Often it's quite hard to identify which particular strains. This just says, Lactobacillus acidophilus, which is the main one. Plantarum, which is good. Rhamnosus, that's really good. It's good to have. Rhamnosus is a bacteria that has been shown to be quite beneficial for female health complaints, so pelvic floor health, looking particularly for things like UTIs, cystitis, bladder infections, then rhamnosus is one that's often used in supplements that are aimed particularly at women's health. I'm just going to read some of the comments here. Lovely. Great, great, great. I love this. I have a big spoonful of the protein on top of my chili and cauliflower rice. How brilliant. Great. Really nice. Crohn's disease. Thank you very much for mentioning this. So, one of the first podcasts I did about kefir was with a lady called Deborah Carr, I think her surname is, from memory, who's the founder of Nourish. And she has a very interesting story because she was high-flying city exec, trying to kind of eat healthily, what she thought. So she was living on, things like Muller Light yogurts and Diet Coke, which is just like, no, please don't go there. And she got totally burnt out with stress and poor eating and developed Crohn's disease and got so bad that she was off work. And she was off work, I think, for at least 2 years. So it was really, really badly affecting her. She was bedridden. And it wasn't until a Polish friend went to visit her and took her a bottle of kefir and said, this is what we all drink in Poland. That's why you often find it in the Polish island supermarkets. It's often the cheapest way to buy it, actually, because it doesn't come in any fancy bottle. It's just got kind of Polish lettering on it. And he said, you should try this because this is what we all have in Poland for digestive complaints and IBS and IBD and all of that. Anyway, so long story short, she started drinking kefir and it fixed her Crohn's. She's fascinating on the subject. So if any of you have an issue with Crohn's or IBS, IBD, do please head to Liz Earle Wellbeing Show podcast. Amy, I know that you will do lovely links to those episodes. But yeah, if you basically go to my podcast, you can find it on your podcast app and just put Liz Earle Kefir, then all these different ones will pop up. But otherwise, head to Liz Earle Wellbeing, you go to podcasts and you can scroll down the list of episodes, or Amy is really kindly, I can see, putting links on Facebook. Thank you. So responsive, honestly. It's been a busy morning, hasn't it, Amy? Yeah, it's going to be a busy week, I think. Lots of good stuff happening. Really, lots and lots of good things planned for this week. So exciting what's going to happen on Wednesday. Please put it in your diaries. Wednesday the 1st of July. Big news. Good news, I should say. So, yeah, so she really helped her Crohn's. And because of that, and having tried every form of medication and been off work and bedridden, can you imagine, for 2 years, suddenly to find that something as simple as drinking, a glass of kefir helped her. She just became so passionate about the subject that she quit her job in the city. She started Nourish Kefir, and I've long been a supporter of hers. Great British female founder-led brand, doing good stuff, all the boxes ticked of the kind of brands that I like to talk about here, and making a real difference. So good on you, Deborah. I hope that you're surviving. A lot of big boys moving into your space. It's always the way, isn't it? You get the smaller brands that are kind of the maverick ones who pave the way and invest and put heart and soul into everything, and then the big companies come in and go, oh, thanks for opening up that market, we'll have some of that now. So it's really important to keep supporting the smaller brands as well as everything kind of opens up and moves on. But nice to take it mainstream. It was, despite Phil's reaction, it was very nice to be able to talk, on national TV about something that's so important and so helpful. And as I always say with all these things, it's about adding stuff in. I'm not saying to anybody you've got to give anything up. It's not being restricted in any way. It's adding good stuff in. And even if you just start with a spoonful, it's quite amazing, actually, I think, how your taste buds change, and how I used to, think, oh, I'm going to have my kefir now. Now I get up and my body is telling me, my body actually says, I think we'd like some kefir now. And I do think that there's those good gut bugs are talking to the brain, going up the vagus nerve, up into the brain. And we know that gut bacteria affects mental health and improves anxiety and all of those good things. Got so much good gut news to talk about, but I'm going to have to save that till Wednesday because that's the launch of something special that you won't want to miss. You absolutely will not want to miss it. Right, so I'm going to have to take a swig of coffee because me and my coffee, I haven't even had a chance to have a proper cup of coffee this morning. Oh, that is nice. That's my new ground coffee. I haven't mentioned you guys for a while. I hope you're well in Oxfordshire. So newgroundcoffee.com. Use Liz Loves for your 20% discount. Love them. They do special roasted blends of amazing coffee that's sustainably grown. And the best bit is that they train, retrain and rehabilitate ex-offenders, people who've come out of prison, done their time, integrating them back into the community. And it's a great social justice project. And that's what they do. They train them to roast beans and blend beans and become part of the community with a fulfilling job and all of that. So they're a great little organisation to support. They're producing great coffee sustainably, and they've given us a discount with Liz Love. So thank you. I'm enjoying mine this morning. Mine's an Ethiopian blend. And I first got to discover the Ethiopian coffee when I was in Ethiopia. I was actually with Tear Fund. I'm one of their ambassadors. And a couple of years ago, I went over to Ethiopia and I made a little film about teff, talking about the high protein teff. There's a piece on Liz Earle Wellbeing. Amy, you're going to have to find it, my love, and put a link because it's a really good read. And what was amazing over there was they live on these like fermented pancakes. Every culture has fermented foods. It's like Kefir, which started in the Caucasus and is very big in Poland. And when I was in Riga not that long ago, Latvia, all those sort of Eastern European countries, everywhere you go, it's very, very natural and very common to find Kefir. It's just served like everywhere. It's like, we'd have a bit of yogurt ice cream or something. It would just be Kefir would be there. And, on the breakfast table in the hotels, everyone's serving Kefir, which is great when you're someone like me and everything's fermented. And anyway, what was I saying about that? I've lost my train of thought now. Oh, teff. So when I was in Ethiopia, they make these fermented pancakes, huge pancakes. They're like this big. I'm going to stand back to show you the width. They're like this big. And they're called injera pancakes, and they're fermented, and they make this teff dough. And they leave it to brew in the sun and it ferments. And honestly, the Ethiopia just runs on injera pancakes. Quite sour in taste. Not my favourite thing, I have to say. I don't think I would be hugely happy if I was living in rural Ethiopia for any amazingly long length of time, because they also eat loads of chilies, which I'm not very keen on. And probably lots of coriander as well, which I don't like, and these injera pancakes. So anyway, but they are super good for you, and they probably have extremely good gut health. Anyway, moving on from milk-based kefir, which I've just talked about. This was a bit of a funny incident this morning. So I talked about agua de madre, which is the water-based kefir. And of course, I opened it live on air. It's still fizzing even now. And all of this just went everywhere. Just exploded. I put the film clip. If you missed it, I put it on my Instagram stories because... we had one of my kids was filming it in the other room. They were filming the TV screen, and we just captured that little bit where it just kind of went all over everywhere. So, and I said, it's good. It shows that it's active. It's live. Next time, what you need to do is obviously make sure that your kids haven't shaken it, and then when you open it, and I was pleased to say it's a twist-off cap. I don't know if you were with me a couple of weeks ago when I was introducing this, and I had to try and find something to open it with. Well, you don't need that, duh. I didn't know that. You can just twist it off. But if you are in any doubt, if you've got any kind of kombucha-y, kefir-y type drinks, and they're the real thing, just put a cloth over before you open it, okay? And just, maybe open them over a sink for the first time. Just let them fizz, like that, like opening champagne. Some people like those, Formula One, they'll shake the bottle and they'll go pop and it'll fizz everywhere. Actually, when you talk to champagne connoisseurs, what you should have is when you take the cork out, there should be a champagne sigh. It shouldn't go pop, it should sigh. So when you open the thing, it just goes like that. Okay, there we go. Anyway, this is really nice. This is the plain one. And this contains, it says on it, look how fizzy it is. This has trillions, it says here, 2 trillion live cultures. Now it is slightly alcoholic, and I've actually had some comments on my Instagram about people who make their own water kefir, who comments about it being alcoholic. I forget the exact wording of who left me a comment about it. But yes, just to say, the longer you leave it, especially if it's warm, it can brew. It can turn into homemade hooch. So do be careful. Yeah, this was from Lisa, who says, I make water kefir. However, I think I'm doing something wrong, as I feel like I've had alcohol after I've drunk it. Should it go straight in the fridge after it's had 2 days fermentation? Yes, definitely. I tend to leave it out of the fridge. Yeah, definitely. I would just be careful with it, and be guided by how you feel, and certainly watch it. Don't give it to children. I might need to just make that very clear. This one is mildly alcoholic. I'm just having a look and see. Yeah, it says keep cold, below 5 degrees, don't shake. Okay, don't shake. It says Acqua di Madre can be very lively. Yes, it can. We've got a discount, by the way, on these guys. So use Liz Loves on their website, and they can send you boxes of it in all different flavours. There's hibiscus, and I think it's hibiscus and pomegranate. That's really good. So it's a really lovely alternative to a glass of wine. Have it chilled, with a lump of ice in it, and serve it in a wine glass, and you might get, like 1% alcohol or whatever. I think, is it 1.5% maybe? Does it say on here? 2 trillion live cultures per 100 mils. Wow, that's a lot. So that's, this glass is not far off 100 mils. 2 trillion cultures. Yeah, 1.2%. So you are very, very mildly alcoholic there. So, but you can buy ones that aren't. So just check what it says on the tin or on the bottle. You can get them in tins now as well, different brands. That is very nice. Very nice indeed. A couple of other questions here about health benefits. This is Jeanette, who says, would kefir have any health benefits for helping bloating, even if you have no appendix? Well, a couple of interesting points there, Jeanette. Yes, so I think kefir can be very helpful for bloating. Studies now show that whereas in olden days they used to think that the appendix was just a kind of leftover remnant from years gone by, and that we've adapted to not need our appendix, they now think that the appendix is vitally important in terms of gut health, and that it may act as a kind of reservoir of good gut bugs because it's at the join of our lower and upper intestines. And the positioning of it means that it can release good gut bugs either up or down depending on where they're needed to fight infections or wherever. And so I remember reading a report by a senior American professor of gastroenterology saying that really anybody who doesn't have their appendix should be considering taking a multi-strain probiotic supplement every day to just repopulate your beneficial bacteria, or of course eating lots of fermented foods. So yeah, I think that would be really helpful. A lot of chat going on here. Okay, my family loves kefir, but with 5 of us in the house it can be a little expensive buying it every morning. Absolutely, I would definitely make it. So I made my own. I tried it, it worked, cheap, but has it got all the goodness? Yes. It's really hard to know because you can't test it, and even when you buy kefir you're not sure what it contains. But if it has cultured, if it has fermented and it's got that kind of tanginess to it, then yes, you've got good bacteria going on there. So, you can be really sure that you are getting some goodness, and much cheaper. I was looking here, this is my yearbook 2, which is, I just love this book so much. I've been cooking a lot from it recently. And here there is a homemade, this is all about actually making homemade yogurt, which again is so easy to do and so cheap and so effective. And with this, I turn it into a banana, yogurt and turmeric smoothie. And that's so yummy. I've actually just marked that up because this is something I'm going to do today, because I've got some bananas that are going slightly over that I need to do something with. So yeah, making your own yogurt, making your own kefir. I've got these on my website, by the way. I sign them. I've got them here at the farm. I do have a few yearbook ones too. This is yearbook 1. Don't have as many of those, so if you want yearbook 1, then do grab it. But yearbook 2 is the one that I'm using at the moment. Talking about banana bread, you may have seen me at the weekend. I was cooking banana bread, and this is a really good recipe. This is in my tin at the moment. You can see it's been partly eaten. But I just wanted to show you the inside of that because I make it with pecan nuts. Look at that. Isn't that yum? So the recipe is on Liz Earle Wellbeing on the homepage. Actually, might have been moved off the homepage now because of all the kefir. But it's definitely there. I know Amy will pop a link to it. But this is really good. It has no added sugar. So the sweetness just come from the bananas. And actually, if you want to pop the bananas in the oven and roast them a little bit before you use them, before you take the skins off, it does tend to increase the sweetness. So that's a nice little trick there if you're using bananas for cooking in muffins or banana cake or whatever. And what I did is I just needed a bite of something before going on air this morning, and I just felt like something I normally don't have anything, until kind of midday. But, with all of that stuff going on and being live, all your adrenaline starts to go. And so I had a slice of that and I toasted it, and that in the toaster, just spread with a bit of butter afterwards. Really good, because it's not sweet. It's not banana cake. Okay, it's banana bread, but it's got pecan nuts in it. So it's got lots of protein. It's got lots of vitamin E. I make it with, I make it with spelt flour, by the way. Would kefir be good for Crohn's disease? Yes, you need to, absolutely. Do please listen to my podcast on that. A lot of chat about that, can you freeze kefir? Yes, you can. So I've got recipes for kefir ice cream, for example. The good gut bugs, they don't mind being cold at all. That's why, you can have freeze-dried because they're reactivated once they're warm again, once they've been heated up. It's like you put them to sleep and then you wake them up again. What they don't like is being heated, so you can't really cook with them. But you can, if I'm using it in soups or sauces or whatever, I'll just stir it in at the last minute. So, and not when it's boiling hot, because you want to keep the goodness there. But you know how people stir yogurt into soups, particularly cold soups, things like gazpacho if you're making that, or a vichyssoise, a cold leek and potato soup. You could do a swirl of kefir instead of a swirl of yogurt or cream in that, and that would again just give you some really great good gut bugs. And I also mix it. So we had a really nice tart that I made at the weekend. I was doing lots of raspberry jelly making, not raspberry, red currant. You can see there's all my red currant jellies here on a tray. And I had lots of red currant pulp left after straining all the jelly. And so I mixed that with some cherries, because they're in season at the moment. And I made little gluten-free little tartlets, and it's so delicious. Oh, so simple, so easy. Just a bit of pastry and then just some of the fruit as filling. And then I served that with cream mixed 50-50, so double cream mixed 50-50 with kefir. And, nobody kind of notices, and everyone just says that this is so delicious. And I quite like the sharpness. It's a bit like how the French will use crème fraîche, which has a sharpness to it. Anyway, there you go. A few ideas for that. Moving on from kefir, how do you know if your kefir's gone off? It goes very, very fizzy and sour. Doesn't mean it's gone off, it just means it's really super active. Obviously, if it grows green whiskers, chuck it out. Use common sense with all of this. And I think the other thing to remember is, do you have to drink kefir on an empty stomach? No, just drink it whenever you like. In your meal times, are you careful not to eat late at night? I don't particularly like eating late. I tend to try and have supper with the kids, so I'm eating with them early. I try and eat, around 7 if I can. Sometimes I'll eat later, particularly at the weekend, but no. Have you ever used kefir to make cheese? I haven't personally, but at the weekend I was talking about craft kits. Did you see that? There's a great piece on lizearlewellbeing.com about craft kits, and I demonstrated the jewellery making kit, which is really nice to do. It takes a bit of time, so you need to just set aside some hours for mindful carving of wax, and then you can cast a little silver ring, which is a really nice idea. Or you can do the candle making kit from True Grace. That's a really lovely thing to do. And then one of the other kits that I saw, which I've yet to do, but I must get hold of one, is the cheese making kit. I thought that looked really fun. And I saw a nice comment actually from somebody earlier on Instagram saying that they are using kefir to make cream cheese and to do other things with. So yeah, lots of experimenting. It's really fun. And talking of that, I've got some of my other ferments here. Now this actually shouldn't be happening. So I've got here, this is a sourdough. I've had a message about sourdough as well. Sourdough is quite hard to demonstrate just because it takes so much time, but this is my sourdough starter. And every few days you basically take half of it away, and then you add another half of fresh flour and water to kind of feed it and keep it going until you're ready to use it for bread baking. So that's my sourdough. Then I've got in this one, this is homemade apple cider vinegar. Really easy to make. I've got recipe in my Good Gut Guide book. I'm not sure if I got it online, but I'll have a look. But you can either buy what they call the mother, which is the starter kind of culture here that's growing, or if you literally just leave apples chopped up with water, they do actually ferment into apple cider vinegar, which is quite amazing. So you never need to buy it again. You can just keep it going like this. So I've got my apple cider vinegar there, and then this one is my kombucha, and my kombucha is nearly ready to split. Do you see how you've got the top one here? That's the SCOBY. And then after about 10 days or so, it grows another one underneath. It grows like a baby SCOBY. And that's what you take out. And then you end up with another SCOBY. And then you do the same again. And then you end up with another. So you end up with like dozens of these things. Now, I am not socially distancing my ferments. And this is potentially a problem, which I have a new thing that I've discovered when I was doing some more research into sort of updates on fermentation. So my three little things over here are close together, and apparently they should be apart. Yes, nobody's told me whether it's 1 metre or 2 metres, but they should be in different parts of the kitchen. So I'm going to put my sourdough starter over there out of sight. I'm going to leave this one here because I'm going to be decanting that later, and I'll remove my cider vinegar and put that over there. So yes, so if you've got lots of different, pickles and ferments going on, apparently the yeast can kind of cross-pollinate. So it's worth keeping them separate. Who knew? So I just thought that was quite a topical comment. Right, what else are we talking about here? Okay, moving on to essential oils. I think I've covered, one other thing, talking about kombucha. Just wanted to give a shout out to these guys. This is another great brand if we're talking about drinks. And this is kombucha. So dare I open this? It's going to fizz, I know. I don't know if we're going to have another repeat, but let's see. Oh, yeah, just a little like that. We've got a kombucha sigh going on, like a champagne sigh. This one is ginger and hibiscus. Really pretty colour, look at that. Gorgeous and really fizzy and active. Can you hear that? So this is made by another lovely company. It's female founders working in small batches, brewing it really properly. It's lovely amber coloured bottles here. This is ginger and hibiscus. So very low in sugars. So this, does it have a tiny bit of alcohol in it? Possibly. It says, gently tilt the bottle to mix, but not shake. Enjoy within 3 days of opening. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Can't see anything about there. I know it's low in sugar, which is really good. It says it's a gutsy little drinks company created by 5 friends. So it's 5 girls, I think, in London who've made this. And their vision is to make products which are good for you and good for our world. And every bottle of Holos kombucha helps our social mission of supporting survivors of human trafficking. And I have met a couple of these ladies, and they're really inspirational. And yes, they do a lot of good. So a bit like New Ground Coffee, helping rehabilitate ex-offenders. This particular kombucha company, when you buy from them, they put money back into supporting women who have been the victims of sexual trafficking, and which unfortunately is a problem in the UK and elsewhere in the world. Just looking to see, it doesn't say on here about any alcohol content, but I mean sometimes kombucha can be, it just depends on the fermentation of it, but very low in sugar, which is really nice. So it becomes again another kind of gut friendly drink. Oh, it matches my dress. How carefully planned was that? Oh, that's so good. Oh, it's really tangy. Love it. So that also, Holos Kombucha have given us a discount code for Liz Loves. And you can get, I think the best way to get it is probably on subscription. You can get a box that just turns up every month with all the different varieties in. Lovely. Really nice for the summer. Really refreshing. A couple of other questions here. Can you recommend any essential oils for anxiety? And that's from Deb on Facebook. Yes, I think neroli. Neroli is just that lovely, uplifting, calming, just, whenever I smell neroli, I just feel joyful. This is my neroli necklace. It's absolutely one of my favourite scents, and I've talked a lot about it. I don't know if you saw me demonstrate the Prosody perfume, the neroli nuance, on Saturday, which I discovered, an all-natural fragrance. They're just amazing fragrances. I can't, speak too highly of them, actually, and neroli nuance is my absolute favourite. And we've got a discount code with them as well. Lots of hearts coming in. For neroli. And also True Grace. They do that lovely neroli glycerine soap, which is just a joy. If you're washing your hands a lot, as we all are and are going to have to continue for ages, let's get some really delicious hand soap to use. And again, it's just a pleasure. It turns hand washing into a real pleasure. And again, we've got discounts at True Grace. And I know that they're also giving us all a free neroli hand cream, before I forget that, with every order, which is incredible. So another great British brand doing things properly and behaving well and ethically and sustainably and all the things that we like. Gosh, it just seems that it's been a real kind of whirlwind today. I suppose because I was up really early and then I was doing this morning, first of all, that it's just seems that like there's been a lot on. But it will be a bit calmer tomorrow. I will be back here with you tomorrow. And, oh, good. Glad you're liking the dress. So the dress is an Aspiga favourite. I think we've got a link on Linktree. I know Amy can pop a link on there. That's another ethical brand run by a great lady, Lucy, who works a lot with disadvantaged women in Kenya. And this, I just love it. This is an absolute favourite of mine. I just wear it all the time, wrap dress. So, yeah, gosh, that is... Whew. That is it. Do check out some of the new things. I can't actually finish up talking about kefir and kombucha and all these fermented things without also mentioning histamine and histamine intolerance. Now, fermented foods are all fine and dandy and fabulous for the majority of us. But for some of us who have a histamine sensitivity and who maybe are prone to migraine, then fermented foods are a no-go. And of course, many of you know that I'm well into this now, having Lily so poorly and treating her. So you'll find information on histamine. I've actually written a whole feature with Ellie, my lovely senior health and beauty writer, has written about histamine in the brand new issue of Liz Earle Wellbeing magazine, which is coming to you very soon. In fact, if you're a subscriber, you may have received your copy today. It's being posted out at the moment. As I stand here, it's in the post, and it will come into the shops later on this week. But we've written a whole feature about histamine intolerance and the things that you need to avoid that are high in histamine, and that includes fermented foods. So if that is something that may be affecting you, do listen to my podcast. There's a podcast that went live, the last episode that's just gone live, with Dr. Tina Peers. She's a histamine expert, and it's absolutely fascinating listening to that. And the issue, particularly for midlife women, which I think is why it's so relevant for the majority of us here, is that there is a very close relationship between histamine and estrogen. And it's that balance that we need to get right. And the symptoms can mask each other, so it can be quite complicated. But it's certainly worth something looking into. If you're somebody who's affected by migraine, fibromyalgia, ME, chronic pain, hard to treat, things that don't respond to other things, a bit like Lily, after 2 years of trying literally everything, conventional, unconventional, hardcore, it's just, we've literally forensically talked about it, and there's a great podcast with her actually talking about all the many, many things that she's tried, which I know has been helpful for a lot of people with migraine. So if you have migraine or you have a friend with migraine, do please send them a link to that podcast. There are two, one with Dr. Katie Munro from the National Migraine Centre, and the other one with Lily herself, talking about her 2-year experience and where she is with that, and now the new things that she's trying, all the new injections that are coming in from the States, which she's on, I think, her 4th month now of injections. And we'll be updating on all of that in the weeks to come, hopefully with some positive news. But anyway, histamine, something very interesting to talk about. So I'm going to love you and leave you. I will be back with you tomorrow. Please keep your questions and comments coming. I don't do direct message on Instagram because I just get way too overloaded. But I do reply very often to the comments that you leave me. Thank you very much on Facebook for leaving all the comments. I also do hop over there and have a look as well. And it's lovely to see these communities just kind of growing and supporting each other, which is the whole point of it. So until tomorrow, have a great day. Make sure you get some good gut bugs one way or the other. And I look forward to being back here with you tomorrow. Lots of love. Bye-bye.